Hi, how are you?
Good. I was just speaking to Mark Coulier very recently about your head. One of the best bald caps ever done for film, and it got completely unnoticed because he did such a great job with you.
Yes. What was that in the ball cap?
It's for that he did that for X-Men First Class.
Oh, for X-Men First Class, right? Oh, that's right. Yeah, yeah. It was amazing.
Sorry, that took us in a completely different universe that I didn't. Going back to the series we're talking about now, Kevin, could you give us a little background on your character? Because I suspect you probably know a hell of a lot more about him than we do at this point.
I do, and I think that one of the things that's been sort of exciting and continues to be exciting on the show is that we learn obviously more and more about him. He's not a guy that can really wears his heart on his sleeve. And when you look at the pilot, when I looked at the pilot, I kind of went, wow, is that my whole performance? And then I realized it wasn't my whole performance. Because I'm used to looking at movies and seeing, you know, that's it. That's my beginning, middle, and end. How big or small the part is, that's the whole thing. This is an opportunity where you have a guy that does not really show it all, you know what I mean? And that was kind of the intention. As we go through, we learn more about why he is kind of such a mess, you know, why he is so angry, zombie-like, why he's drinking too much, why he feels, you know, I don't want to give too many answers about that stuff because I think that's what's going to be sort of interesting, but the one thing that Kevin Williamson said to me early on that I really latched onto, that I really felt sort of defines him, is that he's a guy who, for a very long time, has been surrounded by death. In his work, in his personal life, and certainly now in the wake of what's happening with Joe Carroll.
In the panel, you said that your character wished he had Carol's people skills. Yet at the same time, I do feel there's a parallel between yourself and Carol, and it's more in the ability or the covert ability with your character to inspire accolades. As you have the junior tech agent who's read your book and he's just quoting back at you word for word what you've said. So do you feel a little bit of a covert parallel between yourself and the character and Carol?
I mean, I feel like that's maybe, but I feel like I'm a little bit more reluctantly to that. You know, my idea about the book is that I left, the FBI kicked me out, somebody came to me, I've never written anything, and said, write this book, it's no big deal, you know, you'll make a little money. And I think I really regret having done it. I think I regret having had to go on and be a talking head. It's something that the FBI does not look kindly upon, even though there are agents in the show that have read it and they haven't really necessarily dealt with that aspect. I know from my research that it's kind of like, you know, people from the Bureau who go on and, you know, become talking heads on CNN or whatever, they're not really heroes in a strange kind of way. So I think I have a certain amount of shame about that. I think that my relationship with the Weston character continues to be one of somebody sort of looking up to me. But as you'll see, I'm really not comfortable with that at all. That's a really big difference between me and Joe. I think I would like to be happy, or I would like to think that I was happy, living a life of quiet desperation, and alone, and without it. He's sort of like the opposite. You know, he wants as many people in his life as he can possibly get.
How would you describe your relationship with Joe in terms of human beings? Because sometimes the cops admire serial killers.
Yeah, I think that I admire. I don't think I admire the fact that he's killing people. I think I admire the fact that he has charm, that he is well-read, that he is brilliant, and there's some scenes that we've shot where I go back and actually watch him teach, and it's like he's good. You can see the looks on the faces of the people that listen to him. You know, men, women, whatever. He's seductive, and I think that, you know, that's something that I maybe wish I had a little bit more in my life.
Do you think that your character's bothered, or part of his dark side is that he has a conscience and maybe he's bothered by it? Because he's still, like you said, he's still blind to the death, and especially trying to get this serial killer, but yet, you know, he's got the good conscience.
Yeah, I do think he has a good conscience, and I think that he also knows. He acts a lot on instinct. It's a very instinctive character, you know, as opposed to a cerebral sort of character. That's one of the differences is that I really wanted to, you know, get with the two guys. You know, Joe is very, very cerebral and methodical. And there was a point at which, you know, Ryan Hardy was sort of, early on was kind of thought of as sort of a profiler, but I didn't really feel like profiler is what this guy was, you know. I felt like he was an instinct guy, you know, more of a field agent, you know, more of a grunt, you know. His dad was a cop, you know. He's not, you know, extremely well read and all that kind of stuff. It's really all about instinct. But I also think he has a really good sense of right and wrong. And he knows when he's messed up, and he messes up a lot because he has, you know, anger issues. Sometimes, you know, doesn't think before he acts.
I would think that he would have had to do something against his conscience just to catch the serial killer to begin with.
He did let those two girls go into the sorority house without warning them.
But I don't know he's in there.
You suspected because you looked in the windows. That's true.
Because just, you know, following the letter of the law, it would almost be impossible to capture
Yeah. Well, I mean, look,
without giving anything away.
Yes.
very shortly after the guy is in jail, I'm having an affair with his wife. So when you talk about whether or not he's got a good idea of right and wrong, I think that sometimes he gets confused. But I don't think he's. See, this is the thing that I like about the character is that, at his essence, he is a hero. You know, he is heroic. That's the guy that we want to be rooting for. But all along the way, he will mess up, and hopefully will continue to mess up.
Can I follow that up, though, Kevin? Because you seem to be very comfortable playing characters that are very morally ambiguous. Certainly, the Woodsman being the one that I always think of. Do you find yourself more comfortable playing characters that maybe aren't as heroic or aren't as evil, for lack of a better word, but sort of hover in that middle ground?
But see, that's kind of, to me, what people are, right? I mean, that's, you know, whenever I play a if you want to call it evil or a dark character or a bad guy, I'm always trying to look for some kind of humanity inside there. You know, sometimes it's not really possible, and certainly like in comic books, you know what I mean. You just, you know, Sebastian Shaw is basically just evil. You know what I mean? He's just an evil guy. You know, and that's kind of great. I mean, you can do that, but that's more of like a comic book world, which is not what we are doing with this show. And conversely, if somebody is heroic, the first thing I want to know is what's wrong with them. You know what I mean? You know, where can I find? You know, where can I harvest? You know, something so that I mean, at the very least, I'm interested. You know, to go to work because you know, I just can't play that all day. It's, you know.
Last question.
I almost still feel like your character is slowly moving closer to Joe just because when we see the flashbacks, he isn't familiar with the Raven or Poe, but then he's the one who sees the lighthouse and he makes these connections. He sees Lenore, the most beautiful victim, and he's just steps ahead of the more literate FBI agents who are studying that.
Yeah. Well, that's a good point. I mean, I think that based on the fact that I'm so hell-bent on finding this guy, I will read something that I would never read. You know what I mean? I do think that in my family, there have been people that admired literature. Whether or not we actually end up playing this, or when we play this, or when it comes up, I don't know. But even though it's a working-class family, there are people that in my family that are enamored with classics and the great people. So I think there is a little bit of that groundwork that's laid for him. But he reads the Poe because he thinks the Poe is going to lead him to Joe Carroll, you know, and if that's what's going to get him there, he will become an expert.
Thank
you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin.